What's going on, guys? TJ here. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be an install video. We're going to be installing the Yakattack HD anchor trolley system on my Vibe Seaghost 130. I've got a few tips and tricks I'm going to share with you guys today so that when you put this on your boat, it'll go smooth and easy. Check it out. Alright, so for the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open this up and lay everything out and divide everything up into what we're going to use and when we're going to use it. And I'm going to bring the camera close so we can go over everything together real quick. Alright, so when you order your Yakattack anchor trolley system, they've got two different versions. They've got the heavy duty, and you'll see it right there on the front, it'll say heavy duty, and they got the regular. The main difference is the heavy duty comes with backing plates, which we're going to open up right now, and I'm going to show you what those are. The backing plates are right here. It's plates that go on the inside of your kayak, and they have these little built-in nuts, and they go in. Versus the one that's not heavy duty, you just have straight screws that you screw straight into the boat. Now the installation is a lot easier just screwing them straight into your boat, but using the HD gives you a better peace of mind that you're not going to be in a bad wind with your anchor out one day and it literally just pull and rip the screws out of the side of your boat. That's why people like to go with this HD kit. The HD kit, when you put the backs on the inside of the boat and you actually screw your pulley system up against that, it squeezes the boat, and there's no way that you're going to pull this through the side of your boat. If this gets pulled through the side of your boat, you're in a world of trouble anyway. So when you open up the HD kit, you get 3 backing plates, and that's one for each pulley, one on each end, and then one for the center for the lever lock system. And we're just going to get everything together real quick. And I'm going to try to make this video as simple and quick as possible for you guys today. So when you get it, you get 2 of the little pulley systems. They go one on the front, one on the back. You get 4 of these little guides. And I'll show you when we put these on the boat here soon how these work. Then you get your little lever lock system for the center of the boat. This is what's going to be tied to your paracord, and you're going to use this to run your anchor through and back and forth, and this is going to actually mount to the side of your boat. And then you get your little packet kit. Here's your little lock. This little lock goes in here so that you can actually lock the cord into place once you get it on one end of the boat or in the center of the boat. And then you get a bag full of screws here. And of course, you get instructions with it that tells you exactly what to do. But there are a few little tricks that I'm going to show you guys today if you're installing the HD kit that'll make your life a heck of a lot better. Because a lot of boats, and you're going to see here in just a second, like the Seaghost, installing the pulley system on the back of the boat, there is not a hatch where you can reach your hand in there and actually access the back of the boat. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I learned to get these backing plates back there to places that you can't reach with your hands. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to move to the front of the boat, and we're going to put the first pulley on because there's a hatch up there and I can get to it, and we'll go ahead and get that one knocked out. So once you get to the front of the boat and you got your pulley, you want to make sure that the open part is facing towards you. This end right here, the little skinny end, it's going to be facing back towards you. And when you install this, you want to make sure that you're putting it on a flat surface. Don't put it on an edge or a drop off or too low on the front of your boat. And also don't go too far forward. You want to go as far forward as you can, but you want to make sure that you're not going to get into the way of the mold on the inside, you know, the curving and the thickness of the front. So we're just going to line this up, not too far forward, kind of in between this little bend here and this little bend here. I'm going to find a really good spot, and I'm going to mark the first hole. Just like that. And since we can reach it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the bolt in this one loosely and go ahead and put the backing plate on the inside. And I'm just going to snug it up so that I can center this up where I want it and drill this hole out without fear of me sliding around trying to get this done right. Once I get this bolt put in and snug down, this pulley won't go anywhere and I can drill this hole pretty easy. And when you install these backing plates, let me show you something. You see how they're labeled here on the back? It says clamp base and pulley. The clamp base is the part, the little lever lock system that's going to be in the center next to your seat. And those holes are a little bit further apart than the pulley. So we want to make sure that the pulley, we want to flip this over to go in the back and the front. So we want to make sure that when we slide this in the kayak, it's going to be facing this way with the nuts, make sure the nuts are installed. And I'll show you guys, see how these have the little press-in nuts in here? And then you got this smooth area with the words. The smooth area with the words is going to go on the inside and flat against the kayak. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide my arm in here and I'm going to line this center hole up with this hole that I just drilled, and this front one is going to bolt into here. We're going to take our provided screw, and it tells you which ones to use in the installation instructions. This is the longer one. Obviously the longer one is going to go through the pulley back here in the back because you got further to go, and then the short one's going to go right up through here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start it in there and get this started in the hole. Now it's good for it to be a little bit tight going through that plastic, because I'd rather have a tight fit than a loose fit. And now I'm just going to stick my arm in the front hatch, and I'm going to find that center. I'm making sure that the pulley, I'm using the pulley side and not the clamp side. Now, I'm not going to tighten it all the way down, and I'm not going to line the back up. What I'm doing is I'm just using this in here. Like on the inside right now, the flat piece is not going to run this way. I don't want it in the way when I drill this hole. So what I'm doing is I'm just snugging this down to hold my pulley in place, and then I twist the inside down so that it's like this on the inside, so I have room to get past it to drill this hole. And then we're just going to spin it back up and line it up with a hole, and we're going to put the last screw in. Now we're going to grab our shorter one, and I'm going to spin the backing plate back into position over that hole. We're going to get our Phillips head screwdriver. We're not going to go too tight. We're just going to get them on there where you know they're sealing up pretty good. And I'll make sure, you want to make sure you spin that pulley freely, and everything is good to go. And this is probably going to be the easiest one on this install to put in, because we have that hatch so close right here to us. So the front pulley is now on. We're going to go ahead and move to the rear pulley now. Now we are at the rear of the boat, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our backing plate, and we're going to take one of our long bolts that screws in this, and we're going to screw into each nut one at a time, and we're going to push. Whew, and we're going, sometimes it's a little tough. What we're doing is we're knocking the nut out of the slot, because these backing plates are made to hold the nut inside, and we need to take all three nuts and just pop them out. And we're doing that because we're going to have to use a little, it's called the bullet technique, and we're going to use it to put this backing plate on. And I'm not, they sell a kit just for this, but I'm going to do it my way, and I'll show you how I do it. You don't have to buy the bullet kit if you don't want to. You can use string, and if you've got some nuts and bolts laying around, you can use those to do the same thing. So what I did is I went ahead and knocked it out, and like I said, on the front pulley, you've got a pulley side and then the clamp base side. We're going to use the pulley side, and we know it's going to be at the rear of the boat. So once you pick out your spot at the rear of the boat that you want to put it, just like before on the front, you don't want to go too far back, you don't want to go too high and too low. But on my boat, I have this rudder cable running through here. So you want to make sure that you're not going to hit that rudder cable. I think we're pretty safe as long as I stay on this side of the hump back here. The rudder cable is going to run a little bit closer to the inside of the boat. So I think we're just going to go right in here with the pulley. But instead of using the outside pulley, we're going to use the back plate to measure and drill our holes from the outside. And we're going to go through the holes where the nuts were. That's why we removed the nuts out of this. One of the reasons we removed the nuts out anyway is so we could just mark or drill straight through those holes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold this in place, and we're just going to drill our 3 holes straight through. There's 2. Just make sure your holes stay lined up with each other. You don't want to have them off. There's 3. So after you get your 3 holes put in, just throw your back plate back up here. Make sure everything is still lining up. Everything looks really good. So now I'm going to show you the string technique that I use to get this backing plate ran on the inside all the way to this end of the boat so that we can put our pulley on here on the outside. Alright, so there's several different types of cords you could use for this. The best one is actually like a 1/8 bungee. I don't have any, but I've got this. It's like almost like a kite string. It's pretty thick. It's not 1/8, it's a little bit thinner. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to heat up one end so it don't unravel. And I've got a good long piece of it. Alright, so here's our 3 holes. And we know that our pulley is going to be on these 2 rear holes. And you see we've got an extra hole. And that's necessary to be able to do the installation the way we're doing it today. We're going to take this string, kite string or whatever, and we're going to feed it through the 2 holes that we're going to be using for our pulley. So we know these 2 holes are going to be for our pulley. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the center hole first. And you want to kind of try to curve it down because I know that I've got this rudder cable running and you don't want to accidentally go over the rudder cable. So best you can, try to aim it down if you can. And then I'm just going to feed a whole bunch in here. Just keep feeding it in. The 1/8 bungee actually does a little bit better than this because it's a little more stiff and you can control it a little bit better. But I didn't have any 1/8 bungee. All I had was this. And this should do just fine. I think I've got enough in there now that we can reach inside the boat with anything, a coat hanger, whatever we can use to get to this. The main thing you want to keep in mind though is you don't want to reach over any cables that you have in there or reach around scupper holes. You want to stay on the side of the boat, so we're not going to go directly down the middle because you've got the scupper holes. So I'm going to try to angle my coat hanger or whatever I'm going to use to get to this to pull it. I want to be a straight, clear shot because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be hooking this backing plate to the other side of this and we're going to pull it until it gets against this wall so that we can screw our pulley into it. So on the back of the Seaghost 130, the closest hatch we have is this one right here behind the seat. Maybe your kayak is, you'll look up and your hatch will be close enough on both ends where you can just do the install like I did on the front and be done with it. But this hatch is a little bit further away. So what you're going to do is you're going to open it up, take your bag out. So what I've got is just an old coat hanger. I'm bending it up to try. I can't believe I found this thing in the house. My wife has got all plastic hangers and I had to go dig to find this one. I think that's the only one we had left in the house. But all I'm doing is I'm fishing through the boat and I'm going to try to get this just like that. First try. It's very simple. And you just want to make sure that you're not wrapped around anything. It's pulled smooth. You can pull it and you can see it moving up and down over there. Well, you can't see it, but I can see it pulling in and out. So we know that we went through the center hole of the 3 holes that we drilled. And we know that the pulley goes in the back. So what you're going to do next is you're going to take the nuts that you popped out of this plate and we're going to pop them right back in the way they were, all 3 of them. Once you do that, we're going to put this first string that we have right through the middle, because we know we're through the middle hole up there. We're going to go through that hole. It's going through the nut, and we're going to through the flat side, because when we pull this other end, this is going to pull to the boat and it's going to go up against that sidewall. But we can't just tie it around. So I've got a little trick that I use is once I get it through there, I've got a junk drawer full of just old nuts and bolts, and I just grabbed a nut that's big and pretty heavy and bigger than the hole, and I'm just going to tie this nut on the end of it. Let me zoom in for you. That's all I did is I just tied a nut to a string, and it's going through that center hole. Is it focusing for you guys? There we go. So that's all I did is I tied a nut on the end of the string. It's going through the hole. So when we pull on the outside, it's going to pull up and it's going to pull this plate to us all the way back to the kayak. And that nut's not going to untie, and it's going to be on the inside, and we can just pull this thing right to us. Now we need to do the other hole, the one on the back side of the pulley. We're not messing with the extra hole that we're going to have that's going to be in front of the pulley, and I'll show you why we're doing that now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the back, and we're going to run another string through the rear hole, and we're going to fish it out and do the same thing. We're back at the rear of the boat, and you see that we've got this string going through the center hole right here, and it's running up to the nut that's already tied to the plate. This is going to be our other pulley hole, like I said, and this front one's going to be our extra, and we're not going to run any lines through this front one. We're just going to do the two that are going through the pulley. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the same string that's running through there. You got to make sure you've got enough of it. And I'm going to run this end through the other side. I'm just going to heat the end up so it don't unravel on me. A good tip is though, the one that's running through here to the nut on the plate that we just installed, tie it off somewhere so you don't accidentally pull it back into the boat. And you want it kind of tight so you can keep tension on it, so when you feed this in, you don't get it crossed around there inside of the boat, because we got to be able to pull this all the way back to put that backing plate on without it getting twisted around each other or another cable. Like you wouldn't want to run this over top of this cable up here by accident, because then when you pull the backing plate, it's going to have something blocking it from us to be able to do the install properly. So what I'm going to do is I've got the front tied up, so I'm going to pull this center one kind of tight, and I'm going to try to feed this down so that it's not going over anything or around anything. And we're just going to feed it in that rear pulley hole. Alright, just like that. So now we're going to go back to the front. We're going to fish it out with our coat hanger. Alright, so now we are going to take our trusty coat hanger. We're going to make sure that we're not getting in the way of this center one we've got. Keep it kind of pulled tight here. I think I see it. Once you pull it far enough, you might be able to just stick your hand in there and bring it on up to you. Alright, I do have it. It feels like it's smooth. It's not tangled around anything. So now that we got both cords run through, we're going to make sure that we don't cross them, and we're going to put this new end through the other pulley hole right there on the end. So now we've got the other pulley hole at the very end. We're going to go through the back just like we did the other one. We're going to make sure we don't cross anything up. We're going to tie that nut on. We're going to pull our plate up. Both of these nuts should pull right up to the plate just like that. And now, got to make sure that they don't get crossed up. Okay, so you see our string here. So what I'm going to do now is, while I'm holding the front, you can't see it, but I'm holding the front still so that they don't get twisted up. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to pull them to me. I'm going to pull them both even at the same time so it pulls our backing plate to us. When you pull these two strings up, it's going to automatically line up this hole in the front. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our short screw in, and we're gonna line it up with that front hole while we're pulling these strings really tight. And pulling these strings tight is just pulling this plate into place where it's supposed to be. I'm not gonna over tighten it, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna get it, and now the plate is in there. Our backing plate is now lined up all the way across. So now the next step is we're going to cut this outside one, and we're going to go ahead and get this end pulley, because you know the pulley's going to be on here just like this. And we're going to use our short screw that comes with the kit. That's going to go through this end of the pulley, and we're going to go ahead and put it in this rear hole. We're not just going to cut them both and risk it spinning on us. As long as we got this front one snugged up, the plate's not going to fall off or go anywhere. But as long as we do one at a time, preferably the outside one first, and then we know the inside one's going to be good. So now I'm just going to cut this string, push the string back in, and we're going to get this one started. Get it started. Keep some tension on your string still to keep that plate pushed up against the boat so you don't have any issues of your screw not starting. Alright, we're not going to crank on it, we're just going to snug it. Take something really small and kind of push that on out of there. It fell in, you heard the nut, just take it on down. I'm going to rotate it up. And we're just going to tighten them down. Make sure everything is spinning freely, everything's snugged up really good, and the rear pulley is good to go. So now that we've got the front and rear pulleys installed on the kayak, we just got to find the spot where we want to put our clamp base. You want to make sure that you find a good spot that's not going to interfere with anything else that you're doing on the boat, and you don't want to put it right on a crease where this is not going to hold your clip. You want to be on a flat spot. So what I would do before you pick a spot is just hold it up there and use your little the clip the anchor is going to go through, and just hang it in there and make sure it's going to go. Because you see what happens if I slide this down too far, it's not going to hook, it's just going to fall right out. Also, make sure that you're not interfering with anything else on your boat that you use. For my boat, I've got a rudder system on the right hand side when you're sitting in it. So I didn't want to put it on the right side of the boat because I knew it would interfere with my cables for the rudder system. This side is pretty open. All I have is a little paddle storage spot over here. So I'm going to bring it up kind of high right here beside me, and I want it to be able to store right there. It'll be out of the way of everything. I should still be able to get my paddle in with no problem, and it's a pretty good spot for it, I think. So once I find the spot, I don't want it to interfere with my paddle storage. I don't want it to be too low on this crease. I am going to take a Sharpie instead of just drilling through it. Now let's drill some more holes in the boat. So we got our holes drilled, and we're going to use the backing plate, but this time we're going to be using the side that says clamp base. So I thought that I was going to have to do the bullet technique with this, but I believe if I lay down on the kayak, I can actually get my arm up to here. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to get the two short ones started in the little lever locking system. Make sure you put your little lever lock on there. This piece right here. Let me see if I can show you. Make sure you install your little lever lock on here. And what I mean by the lever lock is, let's see if I can do it without dropping these two screws. This little locking system, it's just a little piece that comes separate, and it's designed so once you run your anchor trolley through it, you can flip it over and it'll lock your line from being able to slide back and forth up the side of your boat. So make sure you push that on there. It just pushes on the back, just like right there. You see how it just slides on there. And I'm going to take the two screws, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start these two screws in the holes in the kayak, and I'm just going to get them sticking out a little bit. Let me find my filter. I'm going to get them started in these holes since the holes are very tight and it's got a good seal, which I love that the holes are just a hair tighter. I'm going to tighten them down until they kind of just snug into the plastic. So before I snug these up, I want to give you guys a little helpful hint. The top of the inside of this is where your cord, your paracord for your trolley system is going to go. If you go ahead and leave it loose, go ahead and get that put in there. So once you have it tight, you don't have to try to fish it through the side. So what I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and stick it in there and snug this up some. And remember, the backing plate's not on it yet. This, all I'm doing is kind of snugging this to the side of the boat into the plastic. Because I'm going to try to reach my arm through there. Make sure you don't clamp your paracord down. You want to be able to slide it through there pretty freely. And all this locker does is when you push it, it just pinches your cord so that you can't pull it back and forth anymore. So I'm making sure everything works. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm using the clamp base side, and I'm going to try to lay on this kayak real quick, and with my left hand try to use a Phillips head to get these started, and my right hand is going to try to reach up there to this wall and get this backing plate on. Now it's locked down, I got the backing plate on it, and we can freely, is that a word? I can freely pull this through there with no problem. Now all we got to do is feed it through and put our guides on. Alright, so I got you pulled back pretty far here, but I want you to be able to see that what I'm doing is that now I'm just taking the paracord that come with the anchor trolley system, and I'm trying not to cause a huge knot because I didn't unravel it the right way. I just kind of pulled it out of the bag and threw it on the ground.
2 hours later.
Are you kidding me? This is like, how do you accidentally tie a knot this big into paracord? Finally. Alright, so now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to feed it through to the top of the front. Just right over the top. Just like that. Now I'm going to go to the other end and do the same thing. And there we have it. Now we're going to tie on our little, I guess it's a D-ring. And we're just going to tie one to one side, and they come with the holes. Let's see if I can show you. They got a little hole there and a little hole here. We're just going to feed it through and just tie a knot on one side. I just took the D-ring. There's a spot on the back that got a little slot. I don't know if y'all guys can see that little slot. You guys can see that little slot. But the slot goes against the kayak, and you just put your paracord through there and tie a knot. And then I'm just going to take and get me a big old melted mushroom on the end so that it's harder for it to back out. And I might trim that shorter later, but the knot's not going to come back out. Now we're just going to run the other end just like we did that one, but we'll have to trim some of it because they give you a really way too much paracord, which is a good thing. I'd rather have too much than too less. So now what we're looking for is we want to be able to stow this with no problem. And as you can see, the cord's running up on my boat. Let me move this camera for y'all. It's hard to get all this in one shot for you, but I'm trying my best. So as you can see, the paracord, when I pull it, it's running way high on my boat back there and way high up here. That's where this next step, after we get this D-ring tied on, the guides are we're gonna be able to guide this where we want it using these 4 guides. But for now, we're gonna put our D-ring in. and get our rope. And you don't want to go too tight. And a lot of people make that mistake, is they pull this, when they install it, they pull it tight and they get it tight against the boat. What happens with this paracord, when it gets wet and then the sun dries it, and then it gets wet and then the sun dries it, it shrinks, it tightens up. And when it tightens up, if you got it too tight already, it's going to be super tight trying to pull it and adjust it. So you want to leave some slack in it. It doesn't look good with the slack, but leave a little bit of slack and let the rain and the water and the sun do its job by tightening up the paracord to where you want it. You can always take more off later if it's too loose, but you can't put no more on. So I'm going to leave it pretty loose. I'm going to cut it right here. Like I said, if it's too much, I can always go back and cut more off. I'm just going to cut it there. Tie me a knot on the end. And heat it up. It is so hot in this garage. I've got all 3 bays open and it's just like, it's not helping. I can't run a fan because it's so loud. But it's worth it. It's worth it. I love doing these DIY projects and I love making videos for you guys. See how loose this is now? When I stow it, it's all saggy everywhere. But what we're going to do is we're going to take these guides. So you see these guides, this is all they are. They got the 2 holes and they got a hook on the bottom. And this slot right in the middle is for your top cable. Your top cable is always going to be guiding. Your bottom one is where your anchor is going to go out and your anchor is going to float out to where it's going to be. And then when you stow it, everything's going to go back and it's just going to be able to pull right up into there. All right, so the best way I found for these to find the right place for them is I start at the back where the paracord's already running parallel. And I go ahead and set it on top of that top piece of paracord and I slide it down the seam of the boat where I'm going to want the rope to run. And I'm going to get about right in here, and this is where I want to be able for it to come up freely into my locking system. So I'm going to go right in here. And now you got to take a 1/8 drill bit and drill you 2 holes in the side of the boat. Again, you just love drilling holes in the side of your kayak. I don't. Just a 1/8 hole, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the top one first, and it comes with these little self-tapping screws. After you get that 1/8 hole drilled in the top one, I'm going to snug it down. Make sure your bottom cord stays low and your top cord fits that slot when you tighten this down. I'm going to snug it for now. I'm not going to crank on it. And I'm going to get it straight up and down. I'm going to drill my bottom hole. Now I'm going to add the bottom screw, making sure my bottom piece of paracord is not going to be pinched against the boat, it's freely up under it. And now I'm going to snug them up. You don't have to put any sealant on there. If you want to, you can. They seal up very good because they thread themselves into the kayak, so it seals itself up. So there's the back one. As you can see, my cable is going to be running parallel till it gets to here, and then we're going to come up to my locking system. When I anchor the boat, I'll drop my anchor through this ring, and it'll float freely out here, and I'll pull it to where I want, and we'll lock it into place. But then when I lock it back, my cable is going to go right back up under that clip, and everything's going to stay uniform and parallel. So now we're going to go to the front, and I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to slide it down, I'm going to find the good spot for it, and we're going to add it. I don't lose all the screws. So the final guide, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it. The rear one, I know it's a good distance away from the pulley in that first eyelet, but I think that there's more of a flat space back there the cable's not going to jump up with that distance. Here you've got more of different size molds and curves coming off the front to this bow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this last little guide we got here, and I'm going to put it kind of the same distance as this one that we put from the back from right here at our little locking system. I'm going to bring it down low, and this will help me keep our anchor cord out of our handle so it don't get in the way ever. So I'm just going to keep our horizontal line going the way we had it, come a little bit close to here. I'm going to drill my hole right there. Always make sure your bottom paracord though is not through a guide. It's got to be free, so when you drop your anchor through this D-ring, if you've never used one of these before, when you drop that anchor through this D-ring, it's just going to be your cord goes through here, hooks to your anchor. Your anchor just falls free down through this. Nothing gets tied to this. Then you're going to pull the top rope, and it's going to guide your anchor to the front or the rear of the boat. And then you're just going to lock it down with that lever lock. So you got to make sure that if this was going through here by mistake, you wouldn't be able to pull but to right there. So you got to make sure that bottom's free and clear out of everything. So I'm going to pull that back up. I'm going to line up this hole, get that vertical, and put my last screw in. There's my front pulley. We didn't have to use anything, remember, on the front, so it doesn't have that extra screw. We was able to reach it. It runs through here. There is our first little guide. That pocket, whenever you pull it tight, that rope gets tight, it's going to go up under there and just seat to keep it in there. We run it on down. Here's our second one. Our third one. Everything's free through here. It comes right up under our handle. And here's the lever lock I keep talking about, and you can see it in there. Like right now we can pull this cord free through there. When you get that anchor to where you want it, you flip this switch and it pinches. I don't know if you can see down in there, but when you do it, it pinches the paracord. You unlock it and it runs, and it drops right here through our guide. We've got it running that little body line right here all the way back to here, and see the extra screw that goes here. Now this is sealed now. It's a good watertight seal. These are all sealed up really good. And we're about, I'd say, 5-6 inches from the rear of the boat. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate you watching. If you want your own Yakattack anchor trolley system, I'm going to link it in the description of this video. If you did like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up. And if you're new, check out my other videos and hit that subscribe button. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.